Good evening and welcome everyone to BT's Fly Tying Friday. Our regularly scheduled presenter tonight, Jack Gillis, is having some technical problems. So at the last minute, Gretchen and I are going to jump off the cliff and try to give you a little bit of an update on a few items. And we're going to start with the weekly tip because the weekly tip is going to turn into the fly. Bullet heads. Cannot tell you how many really good bullet heads went by the wayside because of the one problem that too many people tying the bullet head seem to forget or don't know, and that's called waste management. And now this is a fairly decent bullet head. You can see it's just tied on a bare hook, just the bullet head itself. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then because I have a presentation to do now tonight, I will tie a complete fly. But anyway, the bullet head is nice, clean, and except for one spot, let me zoom in here, except for one spot right here where I kind of messed up. There's one hair snuck under another hair, and I didn't notice it until I'd already tied it off. And in that particular case, I would give myself about a 90% score on that bullet head instead of, it could have been 100 if I wouldn't have messed up that one hair, because all the others on all the other sides are good. You know, you can see that they're all lined up, and that's what I want, is all those hairs lined up straight, all swept back evenly. So how do you get there? Because we start out with, if you go to the materials there, Gretchen, let me get my can of static guard out here, and I'll spray everything down just a little bit. You can't see it, I'm off camera spraying this stuff right here. Actually, my big can of spray has got a static guard from the clothes dryer wrapped around it, which kind of keeps my hands all nice and anti-staticky, if you will. This is the air that we're going to be using. Move that out of the way. Get the thread. I'll set it over at the vise. Put my hair stacker over there. And hooks, I've already got them set out. One of the things that I wanted to start out with, and let me get my two examples over here. Okay, in weeks past, I talked about setups. And in fact, that's the weekly tip for this week. So we're kind of starting with the weekly tip, and a bullet head setup. I didn't talk about that. The setups that I discussed last week or whenever it was just a hair, wing, and tail that can be turned into a whole bunch of different flies. And of course, with this being tonight's goal, how do we start? We start out with a bundle of hair tied to a hook. I want you to notice something. That right there is a bullet head setup, and that does not look like a bullet head, does it? In fact, that hair is in the center of the hook. One of the things that I want to point out that it's really a key point right here, the trimmed hair. I want you to notice that it don't go back to here, which is all too often, or back that far. When people tie on the hair at the front as one of the last items, they end up having one difficult time getting rid of all this because of all the stuff they put on the hook ahead of time. And one of the things we try to do is, tie ahead on some things. We call them setups. And that right there is a setup that will eventually be slid forward to the hook eye. And let me take that one out, set it down. And after it's slid forward and anchored in place, it's right at the hook eye with the hairs evenly distributed around the hook.
So basically, you've got a bare hook in front of it so that it will slide to the eye.
Exactly. And when I slide that forward at the last second, I put a little drop of regular head cement. I mean, healthy hoof would work really well. When I get to this point right here, I'll pick this up and slip it into the vise. Okay. Now what I would do on this right here is I'll reach over here and grab my healthy hoof. And I'm going to sweep this all back out of the way because I just want to put just a tiny bit right up here There, right there. As I slide forward now, better put the cap on that glue because the way tonight's going, we'll end up with glue all over the place too. Anyway, I'm going to reach over here at the materials area and grab my tool for sliding hair. And I normally could use a thumbnail. Well, that hasn't been working too good the last few years. So I now use this little device right here. And it's for pushing and packing hair, but it'll also move hair. And I move it, and now that hair should be tied up against the hook eye so that when I fold back, those hair fibers will be tied up against the eye. I won't have a gap there. And too often I see that. Now, the other place that people run into trouble in turning out this particular goal, if you will, the bullet head, let me get a hold of it, is not getting rid of all of the waste that they need to. They try to keep the little ones, or they just don't realize how important getting rid of the little ones can be. The little ones meaning the shorter hair fibers. Cannot tell you how many times I watched probably 10 guys on YouTube today tie bullet heads. And of them, everyone except one neglected the short hairs, which means they'd go to fold their bullet head back, and invariably there'd be one or two hair fibers sticking up that wouldn't make it all the way back to these thread turns. Let me see right here. The thread turns right there at the collar. And that's because they didn't get rid of them. They should have been gone in the first place. But we're going to show you how to take care of all that, make your bullet heads look 1,000% better. Now I'll just set this all aside and let me get one of my hooks out. Alrighty. Now there we have a size 6 hook. And by the way, I do these setups, as we call them, down to 18s. I've got, here's one right here that's it's tied on a number 12. And here's one on a 14. And you know, I'm not being able to see that very good, but maybe I can see where and it's just sitting there halfway on the hook shank, just like that other one was, waiting to be finished. And I'm going to get started first with applying my thread at the back of the hook. And the thread that I'm using on sizes 12 and larger is 3/0 or 140 denier, whichever you want to call it. And let me quickly change glasses now so that I can see the thread wraps on the hook. Now, the step that I'm going to do right now and the way I'm going to do it is really important, so watch. Right at the end of the shank, 3 or 4 wraps over each, couple in front, couple over. Take a wrap behind it like that and another wrap. Cut off the waist, put on a half hitch. That half hitch is really important, because if you don't do that half hitch, you have nothing setting there to keep the thread from coming loose and slipping off of the hook as you slide forward and moving that hair forward to the hook eye. Now, one of the things about tying on the hair right back here is that we have almost no hook in our way to slow down trimming off the waist. And you see how that waist is right there that I just slid forward? There's almost zero waist, not a whole bunch of stuff to get in your way and cause a problem under the head itself. Can't tell you how many heads I've seen, the pretty good looking bullet head with little stubbies sticking up through it. And those stubbies come from fully trimmed hair on the underside.
Somebody wanted to know about how much you spray of that static guard.
I spray it. See, I'm on the board of directors of Static Guard. So I know, seriously, we just give a couple of squirts. You know, like you were putting on hairspray on your hair, if it's a woman or if you've seen a woman do it, a couple of squirts and that's it. It's nothing heavy. It just kind of cuts down the static electricity.
And then Bruce wanted to know what type of scissors you're using.
The scissors are wrist clips. You get them off of Amazon. You'll get them for somewhere around $6, $7, give or take. But just go in and type whisk scissors in the Amazon search bar. It'll take you there.
You can also get replacement blades for those.
Yeah, you can see that that's got a couple of screws holding the blades in. So when you wear the blades out, you can get more blades and just keep changing them out. And when we're tying steady, a steady diet of hair wings and stuff like that, we have a tough time having a set of blades go any longer than about a month. Okay. Now we're moving over to the materials. And I'm going to get a bundle of this hair out for my bullet head. I was starting to say Hackle, and it's not Hackle. And I'm going to get quite a bit because I'm going to have to get rid of a bunch of it. But let me move first over to the vise. And I want to show you the first step that I go through in getting rid of the shorties. I want you to notice that I'm grabbing a hold of this hair clear out on the tips. Now, I've got a lot of waste in here. And in fact, you can see that it gets to be a lot bigger around down towards the butt end than it is towards the tip end. And a lot of that is because of short fibers that you see there sticking up that are already starting to fall out and all the underfur. Well, what I want you to see is what I'm really trying to get rid of is all those shorties. And too often people leave those in there, try to stack them and even them up. And first off, they're a more immature hair than the ones that I'm holding on to in my left hand. That's because they're short and haven't grown out to the full length. And they don't have the same properties as far as how they react under the tension of thread torque, and so forth. Anyway, so I'm going to move off camera now and get rid of all this crap in here and the shorties from the base end. Out here over the bin across the way, it keeps all that junk off of my camera. All right. Now back over here, you can see now that it's still pretty wide out, but it kind of collapses in when all that junk is gone and the shorter ones are gone. Now let me slide this into the stacker. And I'm doing that off camera. But anyway, the hair is in the stacker. And I got one left over from this afternoon. And let me just stack that a little bit. I'm going to tip the stacker so that the tips are pointed forward. And I'll just grab that. Now I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I did last time. I'm going to again use my left hand to grab, this time the butt ends clear out on the end here. Because I want you to see there's a bunch of shorties in there. They're the ones that were kind of the in-between ones when I was doing it from the tip end. And you need to get rid of that. It's especially important on the bullet heads, because those guys will end up sticking up right up in the middle of your head where they won't quite reach the collar wraps of thread. Now we have a bundle of hair with the shorties removed from both directions, and you won't find very many of them sticking up in there. There's nothing sticking up much at all. A couple there I need to get rid of. And now we're ready to tie this on the hook. Now I want a bundle of hair for my bullet heads that is equal to the length of the hook shank. So that's about that long right there. I got a longie right there I want to get rid of. Okay, good. Now, many people try to spin the hair in place, and I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do a couple of things first. And I'm going to start by tipping the hair down on my side of the hook. Now, I'm exaggerating it so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop this down on the side, and thread torque will put that hair up on top. And I'm just going to, couple of loose wraps, just kind of snug it up just a little bit. It's already starting to move it over, but the reason I wanted to cut things off back here at the back is so that I can get a real short trim on my waist ends. That's how you get such a nice, see how that's all trimmed off nice? You don't have all that big wad of stuff trying to sneak up into your bullet head. And now I'm just going to stretch it just a little bit. It's starting to spin. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and move it forward, just forward of the hook point, and finish spinning it into place as I wrap and bind that down. Now what I'm going to do is bring this around and look and see if I got a good distribution of hair around the hook. And I've got a fairly good distribution, except it's a little bit weak on the underside. So I'm just going to kind of move it around a little bit. You can just take your finger and kind of push it, go the other way, just rearrange it a bit so that it is pretty much all around the hook. Now that gives you an idea of how we do a setup. Let me tie this off. Now what thread I use from this point on doesn't really make a heck of a lot of difference because I'll be just tying a fly. I won't be doing anything with the bullet head other than moving it forward. So I'll cut this off, put that in my bin along with a bunch of others that we have. We don't have a lot of them, but we have a few setups there waiting for us. And get ready to go ahead and use the one that I slid forward earlier and put some glue on. It's already got the glue on it, so I don't need to mess around, take a chance of getting glue all over everything again. Just a minute, folks. We're having a studio problem here. Everything wasn't set up, so let me switch glasses and... Okay, what do we need?
I need the participants up there so I can.
Okay.
Okay, good.
There
Thank
you go.
Good.
Okay, other glasses.
Sorry about that.
What did I do? Okay, those glasses. Okay. Now, one of the things I'm going to have to do is I don't have materials out to do the presentation, but I'm just going to go ahead and reattach my thread. And right in behind where I slid that bullet head forward. And I want to just get that covered up really well before I do anything else so that I don't have to deal with that later. That will make a nice clean bullet head. There we go. Okay. Now that just, I don't have any waste stub ends to have to hide or trim out or whatever I want to do. Now I am going to do just kind of a bullet head hopper pattern. And I'm going to slip over to a bin over here to get some materials out. I need some foam, a strip of foam.
I did some real nice tan there, but
Where?
right there. See by your hand?
That's a little bit too wide, sweetheart.
Well, there's a narrow one right there by it.
Okay, I got the wrong glasses on. I
Here,
can't
show
tell.
you.
You know, grab it. Oh, I'll do that.
Is that perfect?
Yeah, this is going to be a tan-bodied hopper, folks, instead of yellow. They grow different over here in Boise in the fall of the year and then into the early winter. So just so you know, that's going to be a tan-bodied one if you want to go to that vise. And one of the things about tying with foam, I see this so often that, in fact, I'll demonstrate it for you. I see this so often that people try to take the foam and make a smooth, good-looking body with it. And yeah, you can do that. I'm just going to bind this in place. Now I'm going to really cinch down right there. Now here's the point where they try to say, well, boy, I want this body to be nice and smooth. So they pull on the foam and it stretches really nice, and look how that pulls in there really nice. Yeah, we'll just pull a little bit more. Now you see how that cinches in and smooths up and looks really nice? That's going to sink like a rock because you took all the flotation out of it. In fact, I'm going to unwrap this and I want you to look at the foam. We'll just kind of hold this up here. You can see the dents in it. That don't come back. Once you've crushed that out, it's gone. I'm going to cut this off. Now, I'll leave it on there. You just understand you're going to end up with a foam body that doesn't have as good a flotation at the back as it does at the front. And I'm going to show you how to get your flotation out, get a good flotation out of the foam. You push it into place, you don't wrap it into place. Bring it around, and now I push it with my finger, I push it up and over. I'm making certain that the air in that foam doesn't get crushed out because it don't come back very good. See how I'm doing now? What I'm ending up with, I want you to see right here. See the difference in the width of this strip and that strip? Well, we've already crushed that one, and I'll guarantee you I can look at that fly 2 weeks from now, and it's still going to have a little bitty butt end, and then it's going to get back to the normal foam here. That has good flotation, that doesn't. And I'll just bring this around, and instead of pulling it, remember, I'm going to push it on around, grab it, set it in place, push, and we'll just tie that off right up there at the front. Now, I'm kind of making this up on the run, folks. So let's see, what do I want to have for, I guess a squirrel tail wing sounds good. That's what I'll do. Let me crush that foam down.
Squirrel tail, or you want me to go get one?
I'm going to have to go get one, sweetheart. That's, you know where they are. They're right there. Any questions while she's getting out a squirrel tail for me?
This one's been used a bit, but I think there's enough left here.
Somehow sometimes I missed the size of the thread I used on the hair. I used size 3/0 140 denier on sizes larger, 12 and larger, and size 6 or 70 denier on sizes 14 and smaller. And if there are other questions you can look at, Gretch, I can switch.
Oh, no, we're good now.
We're good? All right.
So there's the tail I found. It's partially used, but.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. This is one that we use the warm air gun on.
Yeah, that's the reason I got it. It's nice and fluffed out.
Oh, yeah, you can see here if you'll go.
Oh, to the vise, okay.
Yeah, you can see it's all nicely spread out, and we did that. In fact, I'll show you just how we did it if you go back to the B camera. This
used to be mine.
This used to be Gretchen's hair dryer. And now the way you take one of these, a regular squirrel tail, you just take out of the package from the fly shop. Well, you can kind of really straighten things, line things up, almost pre-stack it and make it all ready to go by doing this. Go to materials on it. I'm going to go, yeah.
You want me to get another tail out that isn't good for showing?
Did you put it on high heat or low heat, or just air?
Okay, we ran it under the air, and what I want you to notice is how it just took that black line and lined it right up. And if you're doing streamer wings, or like I'm going to be doing here in just a minute, you don't have to even run it through a stacker. It's ready to go. Where on the other side, it kind of goes all over the place. It's kind of modeled and everything, but right up here where I straighten it out with the air really gets that all lined up for you. Already kind of pre-stacked. Anyway, I'm going to cut a bundle out of that to put on the hook.
Al, the question was asked, what heat setting do you use?
I used high, but that was a hair dryer. If it's a heat gun, I also have a heat shrink gun for putting on heat shrink. That's a lot hotter, and I put that on low. All right, now, now I am not going to stack this. I want that nice black band to stay just like that. It will the hair will line up even with the tips, and the black band will kind of rearrange itself. And I want to keep that band just like that. So I'm going to get off camera for a minute and knock all the waste out of the butt end.
John, Lindsay wants to know if the hair dryer trick works on any hair.
It does on mine, and have you noticed, John, that mine is gone? So don't do it to extreme. I'm joking. Whatever you guys do, I'm joking, okay?
It works on poly yarn too,
and several other materials. There's a lot of materials that the heat will do really well. And in fact, John, if you'll remind me when I get through tying this fly, I'll show you a trick from down under in Australia all the way to Idaho to do with some of your flies. So we'll be right back on that. But right now, we're going to finish this fly.
Hair dryer works great on your mustache too.
Yes. Mine is growing like crazy. It's just like being in a greenhouse almost.
Jeez.
Boy, it's getting bad when you're desperate to keep things going. Anyway, I'm going to cut this off and tie it in place. I just nicked that off, and I'll tie it right down there. And one of the things when I tie these in, you can see that's not tied in a lot of it. It's pretty tight. I don't think it'll come out, but if I were doing this on a commercial order of flies, before I pull the bullet head over, I'd put a little bitty drop of Zapagat back in there.
The issue is that squirrel tail hair does not compress like deer, and so it has a tendency sometimes to slip out from under your wraps.
Correct. Now, one of the things I'm going to do before putting any glue on it is take my thumbnail and just spread that out a little bit. And what that does is gives me a nice flat wide wing. And I'll turn it this way so you can see that it's pretty flat across there rather than being around the body. It just flattens it out. That's just one way of making your hair, I don't know, a little function a little different for your fly. Okay, now putting the hair back into the bullet head. I'm just going to come back to there. That's about how big I want my head. I want the head to be about a third the length of the hook shank. Now we've got some tools over here at the materials area that we could use for pushing this bullet head back. Now I'm going to grab this bundle of washers and this other tool, and we'll go back over to Vice and I'll show them to you in a little bit. This is the main tool, and I've used this one. That's I think I've had it probably about 30 years. Got it not too long after we got married. Anyhow, it's just something you just slip over the hook eye and push the hair fibers back like that. And you've seen a lot of those. I'll probably get to that in a minute. But here's the set that I built as part of a magazine article for Fly Tire here several years ago. And it's just a heavy washer with some Gorilla Glue gluing on a 1/32 piece of that stretchy rubber neoprene. And then I took one of my hole punches from my leather working kit, and I took, let's see, I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 of these, all with a different size hole in, depending on the size that I'm tying. Here's one that's a little bit bigger and a little larger. And I'm thinking that one is probably about the size that I'll need tonight. No, the next one down I'll need one about like that. That's the size that I think I would need. And what you do then is you kind of get these hair fibers all dressed around so that they're going back in line with where they're anchored on the hook, not flip over the top of each other and crisscrossing like I had on that one. And then you just bring this in. And then you can look and see that it's pushed those hair fibers back fairly well. And that works pretty good. And this other one also works fairly good.
And that just, you don't have that in all the different sizes. It just stretches, or
it's just a stretchy piece of tubing that I made this out of. Got it from Ace Hardware. It's a gas line tubing. I forget which one it was, but it's pretty stretchy, so it would spread out. And then I poured it into a epoxy into a mold. Anyhow, there's that. Now I want to straighten these hairs out just a little bit. Got one here that didn't want to go right. Now, most people make the mistake of, okay, that looks pretty good. That's pulled back pretty good. It's time to pull it into place. And you remember in tying humpies and some of that stuff that I made the statement that it is impossible to pull the hair tight. This is no different. It's just a folded over hair going in another direction. And so I am going to dress from the back area. Going forward, I'll relax this hand. Now I'll grab it again. I'll take that one, and all I'm doing is working my way around that hook. tightening up all those hairs. And when they look like they're pretty good, I'll take a loose turn and do that again. And what I'm also looking for is I want you to notice that all of my hair fibers are pretty well lined up. Whoops, I got one crossing over here. Gonna have to fix that right in here. See the ones that I'm talking about? See me playing around there with them? Let me get them straightened out. All right, there we go. Now, when you tie your flies for the gold, paying attention to how every hair in the head lines up is important. When you're tying flies for a fly shop, it's not nearly so important, but it's still a good idea to deliver the best you can to your customer. But when you're trying to go fishing, let them crisscross. It don't make any difference. It will zero difference to the fish. Now I'm tightening all this up, and it's giving me a pretty decent looking bullet head.
Can you push that? There we go. Thank you. All right.
Okay, good. Thank you, dear. And now I'm just going to go ahead and whip finish that off. Now this hopper could have legs, maybe doesn't have to have legs. He's not going to have legs tonight. And why? Because I'm not set up to do that. Quite honestly, I got all that put away. But I am going to trim off the bottom so that that foam body will lay right in the surface film. With the waist ends of the bullet head back kind of like a wing. There's a very simple bullet head. Any questions from you all?
This
Now,
is Sherry. I got a question.
Yeah, Sherry.
I always have a question, right?
Yeah.
Why is it so important that every fiber in the bullet head doesn't move over and cover another one or something? What difference does that make to the fish?
Zero. The reason, and I said that just a moment ago, that this is very important if you're going for the gold in the FFI awards program.
Okay.
If you're going to go fishing, it don't make any difference. And in fact, you can have stuff sticking up out of your head. It don't make any difference. And when Gretchen and I deliver an order of flies to a fly shop, we expect them to be at least 90 to 95% lined up. Yeah, one will cross over once in a while, but almost never.
Okay. Yeah, I just wondered because I'm thinking about, what it takes to get those, and the fibers being one crossed or something will take away a point or something, or how do you
It
do
might.
that?
It could. I'll tell you another place that it makes a difference. Let's say you decide to enter the Norwegian fly tying contest. It's put on by
Mhm.
Mustad. And
Mhm.
the quality of fly tires scattered across the world, if you're even going to come into the top 6, one fiber of hair out of place will put you down in place 25 from place 6.
So it depends on who you're tying for,
Yeah, exactly.
the contest or the
Decide
fish.
if you're tying for the fish, I wouldn't even bother about putting a hair bullet head on. This is for fly shops because that's
Oh,
what
not at
customers
all.
order. You want to get some poly yarn. That's going to be the good stuff. I mean, I'm serious. And you'll find that exact fly in our book called Easy Trout Flies. And it's all about using
Yeah.
substitutes
We
to
have a
take the
bullet
place.
head in there?
We got a bullet head in
Okay.
there.
Forgot that.
Hey, when you write 20 books
Oh.
and then you forget everything after you had breakfast this morning, trust me, you don't remember what's all your own books, let alone somebody else's.
Okay,
Hey,
well, that answers the question.
Okay.
Now,
Al,
somebody else?
Yeah, this is
Al,
Neil. I have a question, if I may.
Yeah. Okay.
Al,
Uh,
Yeah.
I noticed that when you're on your deer hair, it didn't matter what do I want to say, how the thicker part looked. In other words, there were a lot of wavy hairs as opposed to straighter.
Okay.
if you can hold that up, maybe it'll be easier to see.
Sure.
My point is that when I do deer hair things, yeah, like the ones toward the bottom there, those 1, 2, 3, 4, all those
These ones-
curls in it.
I guess I don't know what he's talking about.
These hairs right here, look right here.
Yeah.
See how they're kind of curly or
Oh, dang. I
Yeah.
lost the point there. And I just missed that. That's one of the really bad things about Zoom is there's no such thing as BSing your way through a bad application. You got
Well, my
a bad
question-
one, boy.
for the
I
fish,
just-
it doesn't matter there again.
Well, I can guarantee you
No
that would
BS.
not go to the Norwegian fly fishing contest. I
Well,
already
am I-
passed my goal, so I'm okay there.
Am I right when I make deer hair flies, whether it's caddis or, whatever, to pull all those out? Because I find that I do spend the time to get rid of hairs that are like that.
Absolutely.
For fishing or for what?
All they do it for is fishing. Fish are smarter than me.
If it's important to you, then take the time to do it. If it's important to somebody judging you, take the time to do it. So the answer to the first question, that's up to you. The second one, if you're going to be judged on it, you want to take the time just to remove the crooked hairs and all that other
It
stuff.
depends on how judgmental
Well-
the fish are.
Well,
And the
I'm-
fish, seriously, you're not that judgmental.
I'm the critic and the fish aren't.
Yeah.
Al,
Somebody else trying to answer
you.
a question? Hello?
yeah,
Go ahead.
another area where you run into a problem with on that contest, or not contest, but on that judgment, is that there's the first two aspects. One is appearance and proportions. And if you have hairs that cross, it doesn't look as good, maybe as the hairs that are straight.
That's
And then
correct.
the second aspect has to do with, do all flies look the same? And if you've got one or two that have crossed hairs and one that doesn't, those flies do not look the same. And so you
when I
can
was-
get deductions in both areas.
Exactly. As when I was judging the same thing that you do with the judging for the various levels, a mistake in one can cause you points lost in other places.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I got a quick one for you, and this is probably a dumb question, but has anybody ever used deer hack like that? When you first started that fly, you had all those fibers facing forward. It looked just like a 10Jan fly. And I'm wondering if anybody has ever tried to use deer hair and as a substitute for soft hackle flies.
I've done it for soft and dry. In fact, back in the first, let's see, Patterns of the Masters came out. I think the first one was in '89, and the fly that I had in there was one called the Hair Bear, and it was one that back in the days when we were having trouble getting feathers for hackle, I was tying a series of dry flies with deer hair hackle, and I haven't tied one of those in 35 years. We ought to try one of those tonight just for the heck of it.
Oh, they're not easy.
No, I know they're a big, yeah.
Yeah, why don't you see if you could tie one?
I haven't done it in like
Yeah,
35
tie one,
years.
Al.
You guys might just see a train wreck.
That's doing stuff on the
We're
fly,
like trout.
right?
We're not critical.
Yeah, everybody's just
Doing it
sitting
on
on
the
the
fly.
Pour it out.
Oh, we're gonna get him. Yeah, we're gonna get him. Oh, yeah. All right.
Al, I've got a question.
Okay, got it.
I often struggle with when I'm doing a bullet head or that type of fly. Doing the math, I noticed it seemed like you just threw the deer hair on there and called it long enough. And what I have trouble with is doing the math to say, okay, if this is pointed out over the eye and I fold it back, then the head is going to be this much. And so this is how much hair I'll have as the collar. And so I guess what I'm asking is, how do you determine how long that hair is going to be? I don't know if you said that.
Yeah, he did.
I
The
did,
length of the shank.
and on all of our setup flies, I tie the hair so that it's long as the shank. So it becomes about 2/3 of the shank after you lost the amount of hair it takes to make it fold over and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And if you want to use something else, again, that depends on the pattern, but just as an overall one to do the setups, and a setup is nothing but helps us tie flies that are already half done. And the setup, one shank length long.
Oh, this is Bill.
Yeah.
How much deer hair do you know how much to take? How big is a clump that is going to make a good full bullet head? Or since you're trimming off the bottom, does it really make that much of a difference? I mean, is that just a personal thing? How big a clump of deer hair are you using? Like
It
a
doesn't,
pencil width?
it doesn't matter that you're trimming it off from the bottom because you still need enough hair
To cover
the whole
to cover
bullet head.
the bottom of the bullet head, like we got there.
And
I got a bad spot there too.
so the clump was about the size of, well, it was bigger than, it would be like the size of a wing, of the wings.
It's a wing and a half.
A wing and a half?
I always consider a wing is, okay. Oh, now we have to go into a hair wing class, but a hair tail is a bundle of hair twisted over a half a turn that's equal in diameter to the outside of the hook eye. Okay, and that's a bundle about equal if you're just holding it in your fingers, and compared it to the gap of the hook, it would be about 3/4 the gap of the hook. The wing bundle is equal to the gap of the hook. A bullet head is equal to the gap and a half. And when I
That's
say
a
a bundle
lot.
of hair,
The tail is equal to the eye.
correct,
The wing would be 2 eyes.
correct, or it's
Yeah, twice the tail.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So if the bullet head is a tail and a half.
No, it's a wing and a
Oh,
half.
it's a wing and a half. Okay.
Yeah, it takes
Okay.
a lot more to cover around.
Okay.
See, a set of wings only stands up on the top part of the fly and are divided. Well, you got the whole underneath part of the hook that isn't being covered in the scenario that when you go to bullet head.
Half times the tail.
Correct.
I hope everybody followed that.
Don't
Tell
confuse
them,
me.
Gretchen,
Too easy.
this is
I'm
Roger.
totally confused now.
It is totally confusing.
Okay, good. Well,
The-
we're gonna
the
tie a
amount-
hair
You guys are
bear.
great.
The amount
see.
that's part of the bundle is
Was there another
that,
question?
yes, this is Roger. Having to do with the bundle, when you twist it and create it.
Oh,
Is
the twist over point.
Is that after it's been stacked?
Correct.
After it's cleaned and
Clean and stacked.
cleaned and stacked. Yeah.
All right.
And the truth of the matter is, it's just another way of judging it. You'll find that in our hair wing book, and I think in the Humpy book too. And the Humpy book is free at btsflyfishing.com. And while we're at it, we do have books at btsflyfishing.com or through the email. There they all are. You can also get them at amazon.com. But the Humpy Encyclopedia in the upper left, and that is it's available as a print copy, which is going to cost you from either us or Amazon about $20, give or take. But there is a free version there, and if you want to know more about selecting hair and all that kind of stuff, it's also in that book, and it's a free download at btsflyfishing.com.
And
Thanks
I'll tell
for the
you, it's a
segue.
great. I've got it and I've read it, and it is a great book.
Good, thank you.
Okay, bear hair time.
Oh, hair bear time.
Hair bear time.
Okay,
So
well,
you're not gonna get away with that. You have to do it.
Let's see. Well, I have to get
What kind of a hook?
I'm going to get, would you get me a size 12 dry fly hook? I'll tell you one of the bigger ones. I tied a lot of them back in the day in the 16 and 18 size and a few in the 20s, but mostly in the 16s and 18s, and they fish pretty good in that size.
There you go.
All right.
What else do you need? Anything?
No, just that I need to get my tweezers and pick these hooks up and put them in a clamp so that I can pick them up later. Otherwise, I'm just not able to pick them up.
Okay, the materials for hair bear is
Give me a good straight piece of moose, and the rest I'll just do a thread body on it. I think these people know how to put
I think I've got a moose in here.
a dubbed body on a fly. So I don't need to mess with it. I'll just do a thread body. Alrighty. Coming back here to the vise, let me get a number 12 dry fly hook in the vise. And I'm going to get rid of this 6 or 3/0 thread. It's too heavy. And I'll go to some 6/0. Okay, thanks, Gretchen. And I'm going to need something. Would you get down that box with the deer hair in it? And I'll need to take a look at that and see what will make a pretty good hackle. You have to have the right kind of hair for that. Okay, I'm going to start my thread base at about the center of the hook here. And I'll just put on a few turns of thread to get the anchor the tail in place. And I'll use mousse for the tail. We'll just lift this up. Come back over to the vise. And just like we do with all the hair, we have to get rid of the waste hair. Well, one of the good things about mousse is that it doesn't have a lot of short ones and it has very little fuzz. So I'll just kind of drop down into the waste bin that's right in front of the camera and get rid of the trash that's in there.
I don't see the deer.
It's in a box up on the top shelf. I'll get it, Gretchen.
Well, I've got elk, moose, and dyed hair.
Well, dyed deer is the one you want. And I'm just going to stack this moose tail. And I'll pull a few fibers out. One of the things that's important about this fly is very similar to a hair wing version of a variant fly that we showed you last week. So I'm going to want a long and sparse tail. Just set that on the side of the hook nearest me and let thread torque roll it up on top. Wrap towards the end. And now I'm going to come back making sure I have all the edge-to-edge wraps, coloring this in, because it's going to also be my body. I'm not going to bother about putting dubbing on it. And let's wrap forward to where our hackle will be. And let's see what we got here. Well, I get to dig through the bin and
Got some orange deer over here and some purple deer.
well, I've got some. This feels pretty good right here. I'll give this black deer hair a try.
Okay.
Get back over here to the materials. Let me set the this stuff back out of the way. And let me kind of feel through here and see if I can find the hair that I'm looking for. It's got to be a pretty straight hair with good tips. And one of the things that I got a problem with this hair, I want you to notice that we have a curve in it. And yeah, there's some wild ones here. I'll get rid of them and throw them away right now. But there's a bit of a curve. And for those of you that don't know, is you can straighten out a lot of curved deer hair. And that's by taking your thumbnail, forefinger, and put a series of crimps on the outside of the bend. I'll get rid of that. It's bending in the wrong way. Let me see how lucky I have at straightening that out. And that straightened that out pretty good. That'll be straight for whatever, for as long as I want it, because it was mechanically straightened. Now back here at the vise, I have the same problem to deal with that we do with all hair, and that's getting rid of the waste. And we'll get rid of the waste by running my fingers rapidly through the waste end like I always do. Get not over the waste bin itself. To do that, all right. Now, it's not quite as important to get rid of the shorties with this fly as it is a bullet head, because you'll notice that the way it's constructed here when you see it go together in a minute, that it, oops, I'll get in there, that it kind of flares out and can hide a lot of different things. Okay, now I'm getting ready to tie on my hackle, and I want you to notice that I stacked it. And one of the first things is I got a broken one here, or a bent one. think you can see that. I'll just get rid of that. Everything else looks pretty good. I grabbed a pretty good chunk of hair, it looks like. I'll stack it one more time just to make sure it's any of those shorter ones that moved up and they're all lined up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now what we have to do is spin this so that it's evenly distributed all the way around the hook, and so that we can stand it up so it'll be straight as a dry fly hackle. Well, first off, we have to start out by squiggling the hair down around the hook a bit and taking a few snug but not real tight wraps, just starting to snug it up there. And pause, reach in here and trim out the waist at a pretty severe angle. Just like I did right there. Now I got to wrap over that. Tighten up first, tight, tight. And before I wrap over those base ends, I got to do one thing. I have to make sure that I'm evenly distributed around the hook. And I think you can easily see in that picture that I'm a little bit weak on the underside. But let's fix that. We'll just get up here and I'll take my thumbnail and push down on that hair and give it a twist. And I'll come in from the other direction and do the same. In other words, I'm repositioning hair from right next to that weak spot and hopefully into the weak spot. And that's better. Let me go just a little bit more. And there we have a good distribution of hackle. Now I'm going to wrap over these waist ends and blend them into a body. And I want you to notice that I take this thumbnail right here and I slide the hair, or not the hair, the thread over that. And what that does is it allows me to just place each turn of thread perfectly so that even coming down this ramp of various length hair, I can lay each turn of thread right next to the previous, and I'll get a nice smooth underbody that way. Unfortunately, that puts my thumb right in the way of some of what you're looking at, but I think you still see a few of the turns of thread that slide right down. I'm down here on the very end where I don't have to worry about it so much. Wrapping again all the way to the end of the shank, because this is going to be my body. And I cannot tell you, in fact, the hair bears that I fished of myself back in the early to mid late 80s was thread bodies. And that's just strictly because that was the easiest thing to do with it. And you just vary the color of thread with the insect intended to imitate. Okay, there we go. It's starting to come around. Looking good. Now I'm going to wiggle my thread forward through the hackle gently under very little pressure, just enough to keep it from coming unwrapped until I can get in front of that hair and wrap some turns of thread up against that hackle. And I got a couple fibers here that don't want to get with the program, so I'll just push them into place with my tool. All right, now I'm just going to whip finish this off. Now this will be a dry fly when I get all done here. And there you've got the first hair bear that I've tied in 35 years right there. And the last thing that you would do is a drop of glue right here to solidify those hair fibers. But that thing will float through anything that a regular hackle fly will, and questions.
Would you use that a lot for skating? That looks like it'd be
Yeah, I
good
did.
skate.
I used to do it a lot, but I also that's the one of that would be the largest one that I would ever fish. I fished a heck of a lot of these in 14s and 16s and a few 18s. Once in a while a 20, but the 20 was a little hard to get hair that would spin around the hook that close to the end of the tip of the hair.
Al, when you were looking through the deer hair bin, what were you looking for specifically?
I was looking for a fairly tapered tip. A lot of tips will come hair straight like this and then go straight into a tip. I was looking for stuff that was a really long, gently tapered tip.
A spruce instead of a pine.
There you go, yeah. Shaped like this, not like that, at the end of the hair. That's what I was looking for because that makes the best tackle.
Great, thanks.
Well, I guess there's no questions on that one. So,
Question. I have a question on the first one, Al.
okay.
You know, we had, I don't remember which person tied those, but those they weren't stacked deer hair, but they were, where you had the multiple colors he made look like perch minnows and all that kind of stuff. Where you take the hair and you leave you put it on only the upper half of the hook, the deer hair, and then you put a different color underneath, well, in his case, but does that make any sense when you do a bullet head to ever tie that way, where you do you just do the upper half and the lower half
Yeah,
as a way
all the time. Yep. We've tied a lot that way. You don't do it in the really small stuff, though. At least I never have. But we did a order of bullet head type frogs that was like size 2, if I remember right, when we first got to Bozeman, and it was I think they went to a guy in Missouri, but don't make any difference where they went or anything. It's we decided that they were a waste of time for making money. There wasn't enough money for the amount of time you had to spend on them.
Yeah, frog with the two different. It does look cool.
Oh yeah. Now, Fred showed us a frog the other night. Fred Dupre did, and we're not gonna. Well, it's a frog leg that actually kicks. It doesn't just lay there and make you think it's going to kick. It kicks. And we're not going to say anything more because Fred is going to be sharing that with us at some point downstream. We don't just know exactly when, but Fred will be sharing it with us at another time.
Frog.
A cool frog, real.
I
big
like
time.
that. Yeah, that's the best
Anyway,
frog.
there's no other questions. Okay, well, we're going to go the mystery fly report. I'm disappointed in you all. I didn't get anything in from anybody on the mystery fly. By the way, I want you to notice on the one in the picture that was tied by the by Mr. Sunderland, I believe it is, in Sweden. Anyway, it looks to me like his wing case is some kind of yarn rather than hair. Looks different. Anyway, doesn't make any difference. I did mine out of hair. I'm going to show you a couple that I tied. And I did not try to follow his exact pattern. I just put a red body on because I had some red tail material, and that's the way that one turned out. This one was with a little bit fuller wing, and you just have to decide which one you like better or don't like better, whichever the case
So
may
there's
be.
2 pieces of hair on each side.
2 pieces of hair on each side. The bundle that you tie on at the back, which is right here and right here, is out to the end of the hook shank. The next one you do is about a half of a hook shank or half of a hook gap longer, even though it don't look like it. The second bundle of hair is longer by about at least a half a gap of the hook than this right here, because this hair, the tips end up right here. This one ends up out here a little bit further, And there's that much difference, even though they look like they're kind of blended together.
The butts go on the forward hair. To the
Right.
back too?
No, all the butts are pointed forward.
Oh, okay.
And here's where the butts on the last are hiding the trimmed off ones on the hair that I pulled over for
Okay.
the wing case. And we're now at the section where the people in the audience share with everyone and with us. So welcome to sharing. Fred?
Last
Fred,
session you had a paintbrush you were using the fibers on.
let me highlight you, Fred, or
Okay.
spotlight you. Okay, Fred.
Okay. Anyway, I went to Hobby Lobby after that very next day and found this brush made by White Taklon, and I've put it in the notes here so you can see the how to get to that on Hobby Lobby. And it has about twice as much fibers as the brush that you had.
Sure does.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so I've got a bullet head. Let me see if I can. A bullet head tool I made, very similar to what you had. I'm having problems here, but what this starts out as is the top of a soda bottle.
Oh, what a cool idea.
Then I take it, pry the little ring off. You end up with that. You cut it right here and then down here. And then I have some thin silicone. And you put that over the top and then slide that ring back on there. And you come up with that.
What a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to recycle too. And you still can recycle most of the plastic bottle.
That's right.
Hey, yeah. Hey, thank you. Great. Paul Fidelis in Port Macquarie, Australia, is the one that turned me on to this. And let me spotlight it, and I'll show it for Paul. All right, there we go. Now, let me first get over here at the vise, and I'll put my focus fly in. That's what I was working on earlier. Okay, now I've already done this to this fly, and when I started, I had hackle fibers that would go in every direction under the sun, and tailing fibers that didn't all go like those. Those are kind of under control, and these are kind of under control. But I had fibers sticking forward, and I had fibers sticking up like this, and I mean it wasn't pretty. But what you do is you take that hair dryer, and you can see I got the hair dryer here. Whoops. I really didn't want to do that, folks.
No, you didn't really want to do that.
No, I didn't. But why don't you go to the back camera here?
Oh,
There we go. What we're going to do is we're going to hold the hair dryer up and blow through here with that warm air and straighten all these out as we go. I'll go back to it. There you go. You just kind of straighten those out.
can you straighten your wing out?
I pretty well screwed it up just a minute ago. Let's see.
I was wondering if the heat would help.
I don't think the heat could. Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't the heat that did that. It was the little barbules on the Velcroed it back together. Anyway, that's from Paul in Australia. You take your wet flies that sometimes a hackle. Have you ever noticed that as you wrap that hackle collar, invariably your hackle is supposed to be going like that, and you'll get one or two to go that way. Take the hair dryer. changes those bad fibers attitude just quicker than a wink.
Oh, and it does magic stuff to chenille that has been wrapped around a piece of cardboard, and it looks horrible. Use a hairdryer on it.
It'll take all those little crinks out wherever it folded over the edge of the cardboard.
The other thing too with that is steam too. You could use steam.
Steam will do that too. But if you're going to do the steam, you might as well steam it and then steam a bunch of peacock as well.
It's just a question. As you may know or remember, I'm into the Atlantic fly tying world, and I cannot find none of the normal fly shops sell blind eye hooks. I just find that interesting. They just don't exist. So I guess you got to go to England or somewhere to get them, or have them custom made, like one of the fellows in our guild. But do you know of any source?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I get my blind eye hooks is a pair of dikes.
Okay.
Chuck, so in other words, it's probably not even close to kosher, but it does cut them off, and then a file will kind of smooth them down a little bit.
Chuck, I buy them any chance I can find them, and I found a lot on YouTube or tires stop tying, and they'll auction them off, and I buy them that way because nobody's making them anymore.
Okay, very good, Jack. That's really the answer then, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the last ones I got a hold of, I tie salmon blind eyes too. And the last ones I found them on eBay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take a look on eBay, and sometime you can get them. They're not going to be cheap, especially if they're good. If they're good hooks,
Right.
They're cheap compared to paying Byron Berkey or one of those guys.
Oh,
yeah,
they'll charge you $20 a piece for them.
That's right. That's exactly right. $20. That's
now
right.
You can get some at John McLean's. Do you know John?
I do.
He's in the guild. Yeah.
Yeah, Feathers MC. John will have a few.
Oh, that McLean. Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Anything else on the sharing? Well, everyone, we've had a great time this evening with all of you on Fly Tying Friday with the Beaties. Please join us again next Friday. But for now, it's a wrap.